buy that for $1.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me. Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Ah, fuck you!
That should be scheduled today.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Chaz and Jared here. What? We are at the ROBOCOP event. I forgot my mic, I'm sorry, but here's the big screen, so when it gets dark, they're gonna play the movie, and look where we are.
My name is Henry. I'm VP of Special Events for the Alamo.
I'm James Wallace, programmer for Alamo Drafthouse DFW.
We have been working on this show for fucking so long.
In a way, all of our lives.
All of our lives.
Yeah.
30 years plus.
I mean, as a movie nerd who grew up in Dallas, ROBOCOP is our city's claim to fame. So this is a dream that has been, in the making. Yeah, a dream for 30 years. Yeah.
So this is another dream has been to do one of these roadshow events at an actual filming location with. We have some special guests here tonight. We'll bring them up in a minute.
Well, and really quick, there's no way we could have done this without the support of the great city of Dallas. The city of Dallas, the mayor's office.
Like the actual city government,
I mean,
not just the people. Like the people, yeah, that's great, but like...
I don't know if you know this, but...
city.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but we're at like the most city government building. So we couldn't have done this without their great support. And huge round of applause for them, the mayor, and our new police chief from Detroit, Chief Hall. That is way too awesome of a coincidence.
So we have Aaron Sager from Syfy here, who is going to come up and introduce our very special guest.
Well, hello.
Hey.
This is crazy. Are you guys hanging out up here for a minute?
Just a second. Just a second.
Yeah? Did you bring a beer for me?
No, you're doing a professional job.
Well, hey, I'm happy to be here. This is awesome. Like, hello Dallas and hello Alamos everywhere. I'm Aaron Sagers. I'm with Sci-Fi Wire and Syfy. I'm excited to be here. This has been an exciting partnership, and we want to hear from you guys. We want you to share the love and kind of continue the conversation online using hashtag ROBOCOP Movie Party, hashtag Syfy25, and hashtag, yeah, it's right up there, It's a Fan Thing. Post those pictures and let us know that you were out there taking pictures of all this stuff. And you definitely want to take some pictures because something really awesome is about to happen. Should we make that happen?
Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen. Oh my God! Yeah. Jesus!
Ask for a beer at an Alamo Drafthouse.
I know. I didn't even have to buy this for $1. All right. So, without further ado, Dallas, Alamo Drafthouse out there, I want you to make some noise because about to arrive in an OCP Detroit Police Department car, none other than Alex Murphy himself, Peter Weller!
Oh man, that is an entrance.
You have no idea how long I've dreamt of this moment.
I feel like we just need to observe a moment of silence for this. Yeah, let's take it in.
Keep the applause going.
When I first saw that car, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world because it looked like a spaceship in 1986. But let me tell you this, in all deference to these amazing cats who restored it, it was a piece of shit car, then it's a piece of shit car.
All right.
Enough about the car.
Peter Weller, everybody.
Yeah, Dallas.
This is crazy. I mean, actually.
How many of y'all know I grew up in Texas? So let me just tell you this right off. I do not talk about this movie anymore, even for a whole lot of money, which these people are paying me. I do not. The last time I talked about this movie was it Bad Robot for J.J. Abrams and Harry K. Knowles and Austin. It's it. I've not talked about it in 5 years. Miguel Ferrer passed away. Give it up for Miguel.
Yeah.
And I got to the Pompano screen, and Ed Newmeyer and I went down to it. The sole reason why I'm here, other than these gorgeous, extraordinarily friendly and kind and vivacious, compassionate people at Alamo Drafthouse, all of them, Henry Manzi and all his crew, give it up for them, man. But the single reason I'm here is that I have some friends here, and extended family here, and Texas is here. I just like that.
Yeah, I mean, most certainly, because you've said so much about this movie, but yeah, specific to Dallas, what is it about Dallas that makes it so important to you? I mean, aside from your personal connections, talk about the connection of RoboCop and Dallas.
Well, Verhoeven chose Dallas, and my father was a federal judge here at the time. It was great that he was here working here, and my family living in Fort Worth. While I was making it, because then I got to go over to Joe T's on a weekend for Mexican food. And hang out with my friend, retired editor of the Dallas Morning News photography section, Jim Mahoney, who's somewhere around here with his wife, Dallas Morning News, Hooray, and other crazy friends that I went to school with. So it was like really a sort of a nostalgic gold mine for me. So many of my friends were here to come make a movie in Dallas and to be with them and be with the family was phenomenal. You know, I mean, thank God, Detroit is, I make homages to Detroit. I go to Detroit. I admire the resurrection that city has made, particularly in the face of the onslaught of poverty and graft and whatever it's had. It's really, really bouncing back. I love Detroit, but I'm so happy that Verhoeven made the movie in Dallas.
Yeah. Well, you did your undergrad in Denton, right?
Yes. Yeah. North Texas.
Was this part of your stomping grounds when you were in school? Like, would you come through here and tear?
Well, let me put it this way. When I went to school in Denton, Denton was known as a big party school because it was a dry county. And you're gonna tell, college students that they're not gonna raise hell? Are you kidding? I mean, and finally some guys, so we would come down here and load up on whatever was possible. And take it back to Denton and blow that school off the charts over a weekend. And finally, one of those do-gooder councilmen, I guess, or county seat dudes said, these kids are ripping these campuses apart, not to mention the town. What if we put in a bar or two to let them let the air out of their balloon, and maybe they'll calm down a bit. And like that, when they went wet, there was no more party in Texas. So, too bad. You never know what you can get if you repress college kids enough.
All right, it's a little dent in history there. I like that.
Love it. I love all the funky towns around it, man. Decatur, man, chicken fried steaks. Oh, geez.
Well, as far as RoboCop himself, obviously everybody's here. Everybody's celebrating this awesome movie, and it has a legacy, and it had an immediate impact. There was a box office response, but when did you start to realize that, okay, this thing had legs beyond box office, and this might be actually something that people are going to be talking about for years, 30 years later? When did you realize that?
When I met Paul Verhoeven, I'd seen everyone. Let me get this straight, man. This was not an automatic, lucky kind of gig. My agent called me and said, hey, there's a script, that great guy, Rick DeCito was my agent forever, and now he's a manager and producer with Mel Gibson. He called me and said, there's this crazy robot movie, and they want to meet you on it. I was in New York. I was a total New York theater guy. And they said, it's about a robot. I said, who's directing? He said, Paul Verhoeven. I'd seen every single one of that guy's movies. And that guy's theme is essentially this. What he does is, he takes these personal tragedies and have you seen Soldier of Orange, Fourth Man, Spetters, etc., Turkish Delights, all the same. He takes a small personal story and he puts it in front of the backdrop of a massive opera. And the opera is usually the end of the world or something really corrupt. I knew all of his films. I said, this is going to be brilliant. So when Aaron just asked me, when I read that script and met Paul, I didn't know if it's going to make money. We never know if it's going to make money. That's up to you guys and how it's marketed. But I knew it was going to be great. I knew this film with Verhoeven and these two genius writers was going to be a great movie. And it is only really in the last couple of 10 years when I've seen it take myself out of the equation, see how prescient it is. I was telling Aaron earlier, the themes of resurrection, of resolve, identity theft, of the sacrifice of the individual in the name of progress or science. Trickle-down economics, privatization, of whatever. Those are prescient themes that ring today. This movie's non-ephemeral. You can watch it in 40 years. It will tell you what the age of information in the United States was like. That's how brilliant Verhoeven is. So I knew it would be great. I knew it would be great. I did not know it would be a classic, but I knew it would be a great movie while I was making it. I was jazzed. I was also practicing for the New York Marathon. I was running a minimum of 6 miles a day. I'd run the streets of this town, usually 10 to 13 miles. I'd get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and run, and then work a 12-hour day, go to bed at 6 or 7, get up and do it again. On Saturdays, I'd go dancing. Sundays, I'd be depressed. Get up in the afternoon and run a 20-mile run for the New York Marathon, which they let me out to do when we were shooting the last 2 weeks to go to New York and run it. I was just absolutely obsessed with making this movie. Obsessed with it. It took a sense of discipline that was far and beyond anything I can cough up today. It's a pleasure to be here in Dallas.
It's kind of cool too because you guys probably know this. This gentleman has a PhD in art history. This is Dr. Peter Weller.
Correct.
Right here. And yet,
it's not honorary.
No, it's legit. You had to write a whole dissertation and everything for it.
A mofo book.
You didn't just show up and give a speech.
No.
You worked for it. Well, you're part of, it's interesting, you're part of history right now. I can look out at the crowd and I see a bunch of RoboCop inspired t-shirts. I've seen prints out there. And it's weird because now you're part of something that is also part of an art history in a way. Have you thought about that and like how that kind of also contributes to the legacy of this movie? You're part of this.
No, I absolutely have, because part of my PhD is not just art history, but it's also, it's an interdisciplinary thing with intellectual history. And the thing about the Renaissance, which we call the early modern era, where they actually could reduce frames to narratives, tell movies and stuff, never happened before the Renaissance. They also had the social history in it. And the thing that what Verhoeven and Michael Miner and Ed Neumeyer constructed with Joseph Acano is truly a social, historical, like black humor look at a particular age of the United States through moving pictures. And I venture to say that's why the movie will last. Because the theme, as I was telling Aaron earlier, the theme of the guy's life is taken away. And Verhoeven did that movie because he read the scene about going back to the house and a guy having a sense, I can feel them, but I can't remember them. He has a sense of the loss that he's never gonna get back. That's why it's a sad movie, folks. And Aaron just asked me, what do you think Murphy does after he says that last line? What is his life like after that? Not great. And that idea of in the name of progress, in the name of control, in the name of what you think is great capitalism, and I really believe in capitalism, that you could take the identity away for the so-called common good. There's not a goddamn founding father, if he came back from his grave, wouldn't say that's full of shit. And that's what this film is.
Well, I would venture to say that another reason that it still sticks around is I was watching it earlier today for like the umpteenth time, and then I started watching some hurricane coverage, and I hope everybody out there is safe, like that has family deal with a hurricane. But you watch some of the news segments, and it feels like they could be part of the media breaks.
I know, man. It's
from
not,
RoboCop.
I know, because remember when political talk television actually gave you something? Other than the sense that you watch political talk television now or anything like that, I feel like I'm walking into an Irish bar. I think guys are about to pour beer on each other. But so when I watched RoboCop the first time, I said, give us 2 minutes, we'll give you the world, and another thing, and this and that. But that is so off the charts, man. And now I turn on television, and that's what it is. You're exactly right. Yeah, it's the 20-second hit. And the barrage of info that they got to hit you with fast and quick, and it is that. That's another thing that's question about it. It's the velocity of news.
I was thinking about this, the warehouse scene, the warehouse shootout scene.
My favorite
in the
scene.
film. Well, and it's like, so we're used to the human Murphy movements. We're used to the RoboCop, the more robotic movements. And then in that warehouse scene, there's sort of this combo, this coming together of, there's almost like a little bit of swagger of Murphy coming through. So, I mean, talk a little bit about that and like the planning of that, because that seemed like physically challenging to be both characters at once, or that fully realized character.
Well, the thing is that I was telling Aaron earlier that the idea of the movement of RoboCop was supposed to be very liquid and almost like Spider-Man, and then we had to adjust to certain things. And with Moni Yakin, the guy who designed it, he came in on a Saturday, redesigned it to slow it down and make it very, very arch and very staccato-like. And subsequently, about a week in, I started to feel the beast in the guy, and I said, this is a much better way of doing it. But by the time you get to the drug scene, only because I grew up with Colt 45s and fast drawing and all this other stuff, and there was a Beretta, and I'm not a pistol guy anymore. My brother said my life went sideways when I went to Italy. And he said I sacrificed the ethics of the country for the pretensions of a piazza. I said, you know what? Yeah, you know what? I used to shoot guns, to go hunting and horseback riding and canoes and all that. Put me in a piazza in Rome with a cigar and cappuccino, I'm happy, man. So, snakes and mosquitoes are not my thing anymore. They were when I was a kid. But anyway, growing up with guns, I wanted now in that thing for it not to just to be, the icon of power, but like a cool gunman. And I was prepping by playing the whole movie, the Walkman with the smaller earphones that just come in. So when the Robo guys, before they put the helmet on, and everybody left me alone, I would listen to Peter Gabriel's Red Rain. And I would listen to Red Rain and jack the shit out of it, man. Before every scene that had guns in it, the garage scene, the warehouse scene in the end of it, the steel mill. So that blowing in my ears, and they put that helmet on me, man. I start to fire, and I just absolutely was higher than a kite, shooting guys off of balconies and sideways. It was just a ball. And if you're a gun guy, and I'm definitely a gun guy, then that was about as much fun as I've ever had. Shooting that 9mm automatic Beretta at all them bad dudes.
What was the line one more time that your brother said that you sacrificed
the ethics?
ethics?
My brother was a 3-tour alert, bless his heart, he's passed. He was a 3-tour alert with the 101st Airborne and one of the first 50,000 combat troops into Vietnam, one of the last 50,000 out. He was one of those guys that, like, by the end of it, he was not even carrying American equipment, he was carrying Israeli and Swedish machine guns. And he was a member of Mensa, a very smart, brilliant guy, but a guy who really knew that world. And he made a joke about it. And he said, he would make a joke about it. He loved going to Europe too, but he said, you used to be this guy who would fish and, my dad had a cattle ranch, and so go to the ranch, man, lay fence posts and ride horses and all that, and you stopped it, man. And I think your life went wrong. or sideways. He wasn't serious, but when you went to Italy in 1981, because I noticed when you went to Italy, you never got on a horse again. You never fired a gun again. You never went fishing in a canoe. Dad taught us how to black bass fish in lakes. You know, when you were 5 with a fly reel, you never did any of this stuff again. And his quote was, because he's a very articulate guy, right? You forsook the ethics of the country for the pretensions of a piazza.
Damn.
That's pretty articulate. And you know what? He's goddamn right. That's exactly right. And I'd rather be a pretentious asshole on a piazza with a cigar and cappuccino. My friend Jim Mahoney said, let's go fishing. You know, drop dead, Jim. I love you. I am not going fishing with you ever again. But you can come to Italy with me, and you and Terry come enjoy it.
I mean, that's a great quote for your brother. That's like T-shirt worthy. That's like, yeah.
I should make a T-shirt out of that.
Yeah. Well, actually, okay. So I'm curious to get your input on some of the other folks that you worked with on this film, because you've got like
they're all friends to this day.
Ronnie Cox, like
I've not seen Ronnie. He's the one guy I haven't seen in a while.
Well, it's interesting because he was.
Did he pass?
No.
He's alive, and
he's alive.
God bless you, Ronnie, wherever you are, man.
Still alive.
Well, but the thing is, when you hit 70, and I'm 70, man, people pass all the time. Glenn Headley, bless her heart, was a friend. I didn't even know she passed. John Hurd, your friend, just passed. Liz Kemp, who just taught Lady Gaga, and Bradley Cooper, your friend, just passed 2 days ago. So people pass, and you don't know, man.
Well, Ronnie Cox was playing so against type. He was such a known for a nice
He looks
guy.
like Huckleberry. He looks like Tom Sawyer.
Yeah. And then he's
a bad guy. He's like Dexter. He's the Dexter.
Yeah. You don't expect him to be so bad. So,
No.
like, did you ever get a chance to, like, just to sort of watch some of these other co-stars and see the performances that they were delivering? Just be like,
that scene between Ronnie Cox and Miguel Ferrer is gold. When they get in each other's face, you know, and the acid is pouring out of it. It's fantastic. It's one of the best scenes in the movie.
Surprise! We have a lot of the cast and crew here tonight with us.
Where?
Stand up, let's bring them up. Give them a round of applause as they make their way up. We have Angie Bowling, Mrs. ROBOCOP.
Where's
There she
Angie
is.
Bowling?
There's Angie.
This is well known.
She's right there. Come on up.
Diane.
You're in the
Diane
cast and crew.
Robin. Diane Robin.
Everybody come up.
Bitches leave.
Diane Robin.
Bitches leave.
All right, well, we have one other guest. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome ROBOCOP himself!
Toby.
this is what I love about ROBOCOP. He takes his time
Yeah.
to mete out justice.
Yeah, you're on his schedule.
Yeah.
Give another round of applause as ROBOCOP is ready to
Thank you for your cooperation.
All right, let's get a big old group photo of these guys.
Yeah, baby.
All right, well, yeah, we'll get in it too. We weren't in ROBOCOP, but we saw it.